though you didn't smoke?
So she was like, so what I can have you do is I can have a security guard come over here and test you to see if you're high. And if you are, you're more than likely going to get expelled from school. Or I can call your parents and send you home because you're not feeling well. And I was like, let's do the latter. I'll go home. Thanks. Goodbye.
So she gave you the option to either get in trouble or go home.
Yeah, and I'm very grateful that she did, because it's like, girl, I wish I was intentionally high and you gave me that option. Like, hello? It's like, no. Of course I got fucking high off of my hairspray and my flat iron.
That is wild. Oh,
but to continue on my makeup journey, from there on out, I basically just explored, got BB creams my own color, added to my makeup collection. And by the time that 2017, 2018 came around, I was really, really comfortable. I was 18 years old, so I was finally over working in the food industry, because gross. If you work in the food industry, it is not gross. The particular food establishment that I was at was gross. Anyways, so I was finally able to quit my job, and that's when I then work for a makeup store, and that's kind of where I really dived into it, because I remember prior to, I went on a NYX shopping spree, because that's all I knew. Is I was like, oh, well, there's NYX, and there's Morphe, because this is before Morphe was a big thing that they were, and they were only for makeup professionals. And I mean, I wasn't a makeup professional, but I was in the beauty industry with as a student, so I was able to get access to those things. So I only really had Morphe and NYX. That was all that I had. And then I remember starting at this makeup store, and I only knew NYX, and I played that shit off so well, because I got hired by a brand 6 months later. So from there, my education only continued on. And it just made me want to dabble more and more. And as of right now, in this present day, is the only time that I'm starting to actually feel confident in eyeshadows. But prior to this year, I didn't really feel too comfortable with eyeshadows. So thanks, quarantine, for your eyeshadow time.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, you practiced and you got better. I always thought your eyeshadow was really cool.
Oh, thanks. Sometimes I looked a little bit like a unicorn frosted donut.
Yes, I love that. No, and so your specialty is eyebrows. Why did you pick the eyebrows?
It's because I didn't realize how much of a difference it made to a person's face. You can tell a lot about someone's eyebrows. I feel we live in the present day to where, as much as you used to be able to tell about someone's lipstick color, you can tell the same thing about their eyebrows, So it's you can tell a lot about a person from their eyebrows and what that says about them, So it's for me, I have slightly thinner eyebrows, but when I fill them in, I like them to be filled. And that's more of the reason, because it's when I was younger, I was oh, let me just fucking play with my eyebrows. So I had this little razor from a beauty store, and I thought I did what was shaping them, which I later came to find out that I was decreasing the hair in my eyebrow over time. So then I was oh, I'll bleach them, So it's I've always just had a fascination with my eyebrows and what they could do with my face. And I remember when working in the industry, that was eyebrows were popping at the time. Eyebrows were the thing where it's everybody had full thick eyebrows. The bigger the better. Statement brows were very much a thing. And I just happened to grasp onto that. And, I just still continue to believe in eyebrows, because I just feel they're such a significant part of your face, and it's you can do so much with or without them. And I feel eyebrows are one of the easiest ways to create transformation, but not only that, to also build confidence within yourself or how you look. So that's why I still continue to love eyebrows. I feel they're very empowering.
Oh, I love that. So kind of going along with your style, the spooky aspect, I had a little bit of questions with more pop culture. So horror movies. You're always out here wearing your horror movie t-shirts. You got your Chucky shirt that you love wearing. What was the first horror movie you ever remember watching?
Okay, so this is actually funny. Because first of all, I just love that you're bringing this up, because last night I impulsively ordered a Ghostface pinked cropped hoodie
Yes!
with like little knives on the sleeves.
I knew.
So I'm adding to my little horror collection. I'm so excited about that. But the first horror movie that I actually saw was Child's Play. So I remember, so I was born in 1998. So obviously I was born a little bit after some of the Child's Play came out. And I think around the age of 2, I'm going to say from 2 to 4. Maybe more than likely 4, because I remember it very fondly. I watched The Bride of Chucky, and I was just like, yes, all of this. Yeah, it's just very, like, goth. Like, I was living for it. Just, like, so goth, and, like, it's a doll, and it's, like, I don't know. It was just so exciting for me. And then from there, I remember watching The Leprechaun. So it's, like, the Child's Play / Chucky franchise and the Leprechaun franchise were both, like, my niches. And then, like, I also had cousins who were very into horror movies as well, so I was very experienced with, like, not very experienced, but I wasn't a stranger to, like, Friday the 13th and, like, Freddy Krueger. Like, so my love for horror really started off with, like, slasher films, and then they eventually kind of dabbled more into, like, when I would watch, like, paranormal TV shows with my grandma on Lifetime late at night, like, when her and I couldn't go to bed, or, like, when I would be at home with my mom during the day, she would just have on, like, some Dateline, like, true crime stuff, you know? So I kind of got all of the aspects of quote-unquote horror spooky when I was younger, to where I just feel like it adapted into my personality later on. So short answer, Child's Play. Long answer, everything else I just said.
So for the next question, I was wondering, like, what is your favorite horror movie, and what's one that you recently watched that kind of stuck with you?
Okay, so this one is really good because my favorite of all time is the Chucky franchise. So I mean, I love it so much. Like, I even have Tiffany's tattoo for Chucky on the same titty that she does, and that's just how much I love it. I love that it's like bringing the idea of something inanimate to life and, you know, really creating a quote-unquote story. Some people think it's silly. It is silly. But I've noticed, like, even when I was little, like, from the ages of, like, 2 to 3, like, I was really obsessed with Toy Story, you know? So I've always kind of had this obsession with things that are inanimate, but then have life to them. So
I love
thanks.
That. Did you ever, like, imagine your toys coming to life and all that as a child? Or?
So when I was younger, I actually lived behind a graveyard. So my toys did actually come to life, quote unquote. Like,
oh my god!
And, like, I don't mean in the sense, like, where they walked by themselves or, like, they were possessed by demons or anything like that. I mean, like, they literally just, like, would turn on by themselves, like, without batteries or, like, with being on the off switch. And, like, you know, I believe that there were, like, children spirits that were wanting to play with my toys, and I was perfectly fine with that. So, yeah. And then, referring to your question about the most recent film that I've seen that's kind of stuck with me, honestly, Hereditary. I feel like that film was so well done, and it makes you feel so weird, and it makes you feel so weird that you want to go back and keep watching it, which I have done 3 times, maybe 4 times. But it just stuck with me because I feel like it was so well done, and it created a new idea of scary and what scary was and is. So I feel like, you know, the director did an amazing job with really creating something new to kind of be scared of. Yeah.
And the actors too, they were so good.
Such great actors that it was terrifying, and it stuck with me. So I feel like, because honestly, before that, I was just like, nothing good is coming out, you know? Like, I was thinking that I didn't even like the new Child's Play movie. Like, I was not a fan of that. I was like, you're laughing at my childhood, hello. But I just, like, that movie was so well done, and I think that he did an amazing job with creating that film. And then it's like, if you haven't seen it and you're a scary movie person, I always have to, that's like my first recommendation. Like,
I love that movie too. Have you seen Midsummer?
Have I seen Midsummer? Hello?
Very good as well.
Oh my god, like, even in the first, like, 20 minutes, you're just like, But see, that's where I feel like it differs from Hereditary, is that it's like they kind of get it out of the way in the very beginning, as compared to where it's like in Hereditary, there's almost like this storyline of like this family, and then something tragic happens.
Yes. Yes, and then there's like a turning point. Okay, we could talk about that movie for a really long time.
We could talk about yes.
Maybe some content for the
Patreon,
perhaps.
Yes.
Just talking about those movies. Okay, so you kind of touched on this. I want to talk a little bit about true crime, because that is what you are in charge of in this podcast. So
yes.
You talked a little bit about how you used to watch that with your mom. What else kind of like got you so interested in true crime? Why do you think it's important that we need to talk about it?
I think that it's important to talk about it is because it's like a lot of the true crime that I witnessed as a child, and, you know, watching it on TV, but also like watching documentaries, watching like reenacted movies, reenacted TV shows. I think that a lot of the time it ended with, well, this person got harmed or they got their life taken away from them for X reason, and that's just not fair. You know, like, it's not fair. And it's like, typically, if they're women, if they're people of color, if they're a part of the community, they typically don't get justice. And I feel like I've always had like empathy for people who don't get justice and who deserve, you know, to be served justice and to be, you know, talked about, because it's just like, if we ignore it and if we don't acknowledge what is happening in the world around us in that crime aspect, how are we supposed to control it, and how are we supposed to maintain it? But also, like, how are we supposed to make a difference in that area of life, you know, where people do harm others, you know? And I think that it's important that we continue to talk about it, because unfortunately we're still living in the day where a lot of people don't get justice that they deserve. And that's so sad, because it's like, it's 2020 and we're literally reverting back to society's old values, which are like so outdated. So that's why I feel like it needs to continue to be a conversation. Like, it has to be a conversation. But not only that, I think that something that I've really been attached to as well is, like, you know, sometimes the people that are involved in these crimes struggle with some type of mental health issue or mental illness. So I feel like I have sympathy for those people, because they're looked at, you know, in such a bad light and such a bad stigma, and like they're almost punished for how their body's chemistry is. And that's just so fucking unfair, you know? So it's like, justice for those people too, but also an understanding. And I'm not saying that it ever makes somebody's situation valid, that they harmed somebody or that they murdered somebody, but better understanding the suspects, so that way we can prevent it. We can prevent it, and we can find out how we can actually help them, rather than, you know, this, you're awful, you're bad, you're crazy, you're mental, you're psychotic. Like, no. Like, out with that shit. Like, let's actually, you know, get to the root of the issue and let's solve it. So that's why I felt like it was such an important thing to bring to the table when it comes to Whisper Podcasts. And that's why I have so much passion for it.
So you talk a lot about mental health, and you talk a lot about how much you love therapy. How do you feel therapy has helped you?
I honestly felt that therapy helped me, because it's like, I feel like I grew up in that time frame where it was still kind of weird to go to therapy. And like, there was a point where I was in junior high and I was being bullied so badly that I was just very open and honest, you know, with getting a way out, which was me telling my parents that I wanted to kill myself. So I had to open up about that to kind of leave a bad situation. And, you know, it's like, it wasn't completely a lie. Like, I just hated going to school so much that I literally didn't want to be alive anymore. And like, I did things that, you know, weren't okay for a child to be doing, you know, such as like, because I have a history with breaking my ankles. So, you know, I know that they're like fragile. So like, I had the idea, like, what if I just continuously trip myself until like I break my ankle again? You know, it's just like things that I just wanted to do to be able to get out of that situation, you know. And it's like, my whole entire life, coming from the cultural background that I come from, and coming just from like very old-fashioned people, like, mental health wasn't really understood. So it's like there was nowhere for me to turn, and it's like I was seen as a problem. And it was always like, why are you crying so much? Like, why are you so emotional?